Welcome to the webinar on EU budget after the 2020. The EU budget is a very specific, I would say, animal in public finances, very different from national public finances, and on the other side, one of the key elements of implementation of EU policies. I have been participating in these negotiations for 3 times, and I can say that these are also one of the most controversial and complex negotiations, what is logical, because the EU budget is really an issue where the policy priorities meet. This time the EU budget negotiations will be very different from previous one. We have the issues of the UK departure from the EU, we have the new challenges related to the economic crisis, financial crisis, so indeed it will be very, very different. We will also, of course, address what the new financial framework for the post-2020 means for the region. We all from the region know these pre-accession instruments, and we'll also address how this might affect the region in this context. The Commission will come out with a proposal in early May, and the main objective of this webinar is to discuss what are the key features of the EU budget, and the second thing is what we can expect from this for the EU in general, but of course also specifically for the region in the context of these pre-accession instruments. So I hope it will be useful for at least most of you who will take part at the webinar.
Finances are always, of course, the tricky part. But it's not just about the money that is provided through the MFF, it's also about the political message given when a certain policy has a specific mentioning, of course. Therefore, to answer your question, the forthcoming multi-annual financial framework will, by my opinion, influence the candidate countries in 2 ways. First would be through the amount of money allocated for the enlargement, and then the second through the political weight, and this is of course important, if the specific provisions on the enlargement will be included, saying, for example, that adjustments are to be made if some of the candidates are ready to join the EU during the period of the next MFF. This so-called new enlargement perspective is a potentially extremely important document. We're not only talking about the European Union's commitments now, objectives and expectations could also be the term. Proposals which are included within the strategy and its appendix, the so-called action plan to support the transformation of the Western Balkans, must now be brought to life. This means that concrete follow-up is needed to the proposed 6 flagship initiatives, not just from the side of the European Commission, but primarily from the side of the Western Balkan countries. At the same time, this strategy and its action plans is not directly connected to the next MFF. The actions are supposed to start now already. Timelines envisaged by the European Commission are defined, and they don't stretch into the next MFF. Of course, if the goals are met, if the support of the transformation works, and if the candidates step up their work, they will be more ready. And if they're ready to join the EU, and in this case, at some point, of course, the next MFF will need to take this into account, as I was just explaining earlier.